What's going on, guys? Chuck Earls here. We're hanging out in the Lake Erie Kayak Fishing rigging shop. I just wanted to do a quick video for you and show you how I install the YakAttack Thru-Hull wiring kits. I do it a little bit different just to make sure it's 100% watertight for Lake Erie. So I figured I'd bring you along and just kind of show you my process. First thing we're going to do is we're going to use one of the YakHobby Garmin transducer mounts for the Old Town. This is going to bolt right into the factory mount down there, and it's going to mount the transducer so it's out of the way from getting damaged, but also positioned properly so the side scan works. So first thing we're going to do is just mount this thing. That way we can bring our transducer wire through here, and then we're going to mount our Thru-Hull wiring kit right in there. This is going to go on this way. Yep, so mounts just like that. It's basically going to go right in through here, right in through this compartment here, and then it's going to come around and we're going to come out over here to mount onto the fish finder. And that should be good. With the YakAttack Thru-Hull kit, you're going to need 1-inch hole saw or a spade bit to make a clean 1-inch hole. That way, when you use your rubber pieces, it's going to fit in there nice, and we'll have a good watertight seal once we're finished. What you're going to have to do on these, because obviously we can't fit that through that little hole. So you're going to have to put a slice in it, and what you want to do, if you get a close-up on this, you want to come at an angle. So don't go straight up and down, you want to have a nice angle there. That way you can open it up, put your wire in there, and then what I do is I put a little bit of super glue right there to super glue that back together, and then I super glue the other half there. That way that rubber is one solid piece. I don't want when he's pulling on wires for that to come loose and have a potential for any water to get in. You know, this is another Lake Erie boat, so being watertight is just very, very important, or any body of water, or any time that you're dealing with a lot of water and waves coming over the bow. What we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and drill that hole right there. First, we are going to take one of these covers and just position it. So we'll pull one of those covers out, and we're just going to kind of get an idea of where we're going to put it. That's going to be about centered right there. And then we're going to take our automatic punch tool, just get that center mark. And that's just going to give us a little bit of a divot so that when we use our hole saw with the drill bit, that drill bit's going to stay in that divot, and it's not going to walk and come off of our position. Get that on that spot. Always keep your fingers out of the way. And there we go. There's our first hole. What I'm going to do is just take a razor blade, and we're going to clean this plastic flashing off so we have a nice surface on there. And you don't want to dig in, you're just kind of cutting this stuff off. Then I take a half round file, and I'm just going to smooth that edge and get rid of this flashing that's on the inside of the hull. And I have this little tool here. I'm not quite sure what originally it was for, but it's great. It's great for getting in here and getting this flashing cut out on the inside. And then we're just going to lightly take the file. I don't want to take off too much plastic or make the hole out around. All I'm doing is trying to knock off this, just a little extra flashing that's there. And then I'm just going to test fit my my 2 half circles. So what you want to do is find the one that's going to fit nice and neat around your wire, still have a good seal, but it's also going to close properly. If this wire is too big for this, it will still be kind of sitting open like that, and you're going to have to force it, and you'll have a bulge here, which this flat piece is not going to sit flush. But if you have the right piece, once you super glue that in place, that's going to be perfect. So we're just going to take these pieces and just make sure that it fits in that hole. I'm going to have to clean it up just a little bit more. Oh yeah. Yep. So it fits really nice. It's nice and flush around the edge. And then when this goes on, that's going to be tightened down just like that. So what we're going to do here is we'll put that in position, and then we'll drill our 2 holes right there, which instead of using the factory screws that comes with the YakAttack, which works fine in most cases, for people that don't really deal with rough water or big water, or don't have any water, you know, coming over the bow. But for us on Lake Erie, what I like to do is through bolt it. So I go with the 1032 by 1 inch. These are oval head Phillips screws. So just machine screws, stainless steel obviously. But this is going to go right into that cover, nice and flush. And then we're going to go through the back. We're going to have a washer on the inside and then a lock nut. That way it's going to actually sandwich this cover and that rubber against the hull. So we'll go ahead and just put this in place, get our two holes drilled. Again, you want to kind of make sure that it's straight. That looks pretty good right there. We're using a little bit longer extension on there just to get the right angle. So what I'll do is I'll drill one, and I'll just temporarily put this in place. I'll get this first screw in there. That way make sure that that's not going to move off while I drill a second one. The holes will be perfectly aligned, and we don't need to make any accidental repairs. And we'll just take our razor blade, make sure that stuff's clean. We don't want any loose plastic sticking over, because that'll prevent us from having a good seal there. And the other thing that I like to do it because it gives me a clean surface for that marine grade silicone to adhere to. So I'm just taking a little bit of acetone and just cleaning the surface there. Get any kind of mold release or any kind of grease from our fingers or anything like that that could prevent us from having a watertight seal there. So just clean that real quick, and we'll let that dry. While we're letting it dry, we're going to go ahead and get our rubber pieces on here. So we'll pop that out of the cover, and there's 2 ways to put this on. So you have this way where you have a little bit of rubber sticking through, and then you have this way where it's the size of the wire. So you want that little rubber seal facing out, and we're going to go ahead and feed this wire through. Before you feed it through, make sure you put your cover on, because if not, you're going to have to pull it back through and get your cover on there. So we'll just go ahead and feed that through there, and we'll just leave that in the hole for now out of the way. All right. So we'll take this, our first piece, we're going to put it around this wire here, and we'll take our super glue. This is Gorilla Glue, super glue. It works for rubber. So we don't want to use a whole lot. We don't want to stick the wire to the rubber. We just want to stick the rubber back together where we sliced it to get the wire on there. So just a little bit, and then make sure it's lined up, and just hold it about 15 seconds, and it will it'll piece itself back together like that. Just like that. All right. Oop. Stick my fingers together. And then, because we only have one wire going through this front one, just the transducer wire, we're just using the solid rubber half. We're going to do the same thing to that though. You know, we want those two halves to be basically permanently connected together and sealed. We don't want any kind of leakage here, or anything like that. Any kind of like if you were to put silicone there and you're jiggling your wires a lot, you know, that silicone could give way. But this super glue, the super glue is going to hold everything together very nicely, and then we're going to seal it with the silicone and through bolt it so that there's no pressure on that silicone. It's just going to do what it's designed to do. And you don't want to use too much super glue, but you want to get a nice even cover, you know, from one side to the other. That way you're sealing that whole portion there. And then you're taking your half circle here, and here, maybe come on this side. And you're going to line it up so that everything's lined up equally. The edges, this part here, that way it's going to fit into your cover real good. And just put a little bit of pressure on it. Super glue cures with the lack of oxygen, so you know you want to put a little bit of pressure on it and just make sure it seals good. And that looks pretty freaking good right there. So that's just one solid piece now. And what we're gonna do is, I like to have this transducer wire on the bottom. We'll keep that wire on the bottom like that and just keep everything nice and tight in place. And it's gonna fit just like that. We'll get our wire length right. Then we're gonna pull it out. We're gonna put this, line that up so it's straight, and we'll take marine grade silicone. This is just it's made by Starbright. You can get it Amazon, Cabela's, Fish USA, anywhere that deals with marine stuff. But you want the marine grade silicone. And then you're going to come in and right around this inside ring here. Come on. You're just going to put a nice bead. And it's okay to put a little bit more than you think you need there, because whatever's not needed will push out and you can simply wipe off. But if you don't have enough, you're not going to have a good seal there. And we're going to make sure we're sealed around those bolts too. And just around that wire, just to make sure that everything's completely waterproof. He's not going to have to ever move that wire. So once it goes in, it's basically set it and forget it. And we'll just push it in place like that. We'll get our bolts in there. that works. And then just simple washers. You know, if it was something that was going to have a lot of force on it, I would use wider fender washers. But there's not going to be a lot of force on there, so just a simple stainless steel washer is just fine. We're going to put that on there, and then a lock nut. That way it's not going to ever loosen up on him. Just like that. And for efficiency reasons, we're going to go ahead and just use our impact on low. You don't want to over tighten it and crack your cover, but we're going to just tighten these down, and then we'll hand tighten it to spec. There we go. There we go. So that's nice and tight now. And we have it siliconed on the back. This is all silicone, nice and watertight in here. And just for, I better close that super glue before it goes bad. Just for extra protection, I like to cover the rubber face with silicone too. It's probably not necessary, but again, on Lake Erie, you know, 2 miles offshore, you start taking on water, it's not a fun experience. So we're going to make sure that this thing is completely watertight for him. Make sure we get around that wire real good. And then what I do is use just a simple trim nail just to close this back up so it doesn't dry up on me. You know, so I just stick the nail in there, I throw it back on the shelf, and it's ready to go for next time. Then I'm going to take my rag, and not that one because that one had the acetone on it. So we'll get just a clean rag, and we're just going to wipe around the outside just because there's a little bit of silicone that got pushed out, and we want it to look nice. But that's it. That's how we do our YakAttack Thru-Hull wiring kits here on Lake Erie, just to make sure that it's not necessarily that it's permanent. You could always take that apart and change out your electronics pretty easily. But while in use, it's going to be waterproof, it's going to be watertight, and it's not going to be a source where he's starting to take water into his boat. Like I said, either way works, whether you do it the way that it comes with just the standard screws that screw into the plastic, or you through bolt it. I like to through bolt it because it keeps everything just nice and tight. You don't have that cover moving away and breaking your silicone seal and potentially causing a leak. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments below. If you don't want to do this yourself, we could take care of that too. We can do simple fish finder installs, track installs, fully loaded motorized rigs. If you can dream it, we can build it. All right, guys. See you on the water.